My name is Michael Johnson, and I want to share a true account of something that happened to me back in September 2012. At that time, I was working as a park ranger at Olympic National Park. I've been reluctant to talk about these events for a long time, but now, as I near the end of my life, I think it's important to document what occurred. Maybe this story will serve as a warning, or perhaps just as a testament to the mysteries that lie beyond our comprehension. I had been working at the park for just over 5 years when the incident took place. The job suited me perfectly. I loved the vast rainforest, the isolation, the sense of being in a completely different realm. But as remote as it was, nothing could prepare me for the heart of the Hoh rainforest. There, the old-growth trees covered in moss, the dense underbrush, and the minimal sunlight created an environment where silence seemed to swallow every sound, making it easy to get lost. In early September of that year, I was tasked with trail maintenance in one of the park's most secluded sections. It was supposed to be a straightforward, solitary 2-day job. Everything went as expected on the first day, with routine work clearing vines and overgrowth. By evening, I had set up camp near a river, had a freeze-dried meal, and relaxed with a book under the light of my headlamp. But then, I heard something unsettling. It was not a bear or a cougar, nor was it the usual sounds of the forest at night. It sounded like a desperate, choked sob followed by rustling in the bushes. Normally, park protocol for encountering civilians in distress is to intervene carefully, respecting the wild for what it is. Yet, something about that noise unnerved me deeply. I took my rifle, turned off the safety, and cautiously moved toward the source of the sound. The forest was eerily quiet, amplifying the soft crack of every twig underfoot. Soon, I heard a thrashing in a thicket of thorny vines. "Hello, anyone there?" I called, my voice sounding rough in the silence. No response came, just more rustling and then a sudden movement in the dark. I inched forward, my finger ready on the rifle's trigger. Suddenly, a creature attacked. It was a blur of sinewy limbs and rank fur, knocking me to the ground. My rifle slid away as I glimpsed its clawed hands and sharp, yellow teeth. Its eyes, large and amber, burned with a hatred that seemed more than animalistic. It screamed and lunged at me. Rolling away, I scrambled for my rifle, managed to grab it, and fired instinctively. The creature recoiled, blood splattering the trees, but it wasn't defeated. It circled me, breathing heavily, its eyes never leaving mine. I fired again, and it flinched before vanishing into the underbrush. Trembling, I stood and knew I had to leave. I radioed the incident in, but my report was met with skepticism. It took 3 days, a fully armed ranger team, and too much blood found in the forest for anyone to start believing my story. They suggested it might have been a diseased bear or a mangy coyote. Not long after, I transferred to a desk job in Seattle. Nowadays, I avoid the woods. The trees feel too enclosing. Sometimes, at night, when the city quiets down, I swear I hear the creatures scream and see those haunting amber eyes peering at me from the darkness outside my window. Over a decade has passed, but the memory remains vivid, pressing. Despite trying to rationalize it as fear or isolation, I know what I saw was real. I'm not the only one. Over the years, I've heard bits of similar tales from other rangers, hikers, and locals. They rarely speak openly about it. After all, who would believe such stories? But in quiet moments, in dimly lit bars, or around dying campfires, these stories emerge. I clumsily reach for my backup pistol, my fingers numb with cold and terror. As the creature raised its clawed hand to strike, I managed to roll away, narrowly avoiding a blow to my head, but not the slash that tore open my shoulder. I scrambled backward, groping for any weapon I could find. The creature snarled and advanced as pain shot through me and my vision started to blur. I thought it was the end, but then a sudden, intense beam of light sliced through the darkness, causing both me and the creature to flinch. The beast jerked back, hissing as the light burned its eyes. In my desperation, I swung my flashlight around and another beam joined mine, casting from further down the slope with a familiar voice shouting my name. Reinforcements had arrived. Trapped between the beams of our flashlights, the creature snapped wildly, its skin smoking where the light touched, emitting a foul smell. With a final, enraged howl, it turned and disappeared into the underbrush, the sounds of its retreat drowned out by the rain and my racing heartbeat. My fellow rangers, Eddie and Walker, found me slumped against a tree, bleeding and struggling for breath. Their faces showed a mix of relief and horror as they saw the claw marks on my shoulder. Eddie quickly patched me up while Walker searched the area and retrieved my rifle, but there was no sign of the creature. It took both of them to help me back to the main road, casting nervous glances into the shadows as we went. Only when the ambulance's flashing lights came into view did I begin to relax the death grip on my pistol. At the hospital, after being stitched up and undergoing countless tests, I faced a barrage of questions from Park Service officials and local police. I tried to describe the creature as best I could, sticking to the facts to avoid sounding delusional. Their skeptical looks told me they didn't fully believe my story. When the media caught wind, they bombarded me with questions about the animal attack. I maintained that my injuries were from falling during the rescue operation, to avoid panic about a monster lurking in our national parks. The aftermath was a blur of physical therapy for my shoulder and nightmares that woke me sweating and gasping for breath. I returned to work, but everything had changed. On every patrol, I found myself scanning the trees, not for lost hikers, but for those haunting yellow eyes and the stench of decay. Rumors circulated among the rangers. A sighting near a campsite, a string of shredded tents, a lone hiker's disappearance marked only by an unusual footprint. Officially, these incidents remained unlinked. One night, deep in the park, I ran into Edie at a crossroads. Without a word, she handed me a thermos of strong coffee and a sealed envelope containing silver bullets, certainly not standard issue. Her grim expression conveyed an unspoken understanding. After what I had seen, I might need them. That solidarity offered some comfort, yet the certainty that the creature still roamed out there weighed heavily on me. Whether called a Wendigo, a demon, or another name from old tales, something was preying on those who ventured alone into these mountains. Maybe one day I would confront it, end its reign of terror, but that seemed a distant, almost foolish hope. Monsters, after all, fight back and sometimes they win. On foggy mornings, when another hiker vanishes or a backpack is found shredded, I'm reminded of the ongoing danger. My life has become a cycle of preparedness. My rifle always clean, an extra flashlight within reach, ever vigilant as I patrol the park roads and woods. This isn't just a job anymore. It's a war against an unseen enemy. So, to whoever reads this, remember, the monsters are real. The battle never ends. Keep your wits sharp and your flashlight ready. You might be our next line of defense against the darkness lurking in the wilderness. My name is Michael Johnson, and although I now reside far from those haunted woods, in my quieter moments, I still hear the echoes of that unholy screech, and I feel the piercing gaze of those amber eyes. They are a stark reminder that our battles against the unseen are never truly over, and vigilance is our only armor. I sighed, feeling the burden of secrecy weighing heavily on me. I don't know what it was, Jen, but you're right, it definitely wasn't a bear, I confessed. As I relayed the details, the unusual marks, the disturbing arrangement of the body, the arrival of the men in black SUVs. Jen's face grew pale. "Jesus, Ron," she whispered when I finished. "What the hell is happening in this park?" I shook my head, as bewildered as she was. "I don't know, but I have a feeling we're going to find out, whether we want to or not." In the following weeks, the rumors among the Rangers intensified. There were reports of bizarre sightings, unidentifiable tracks, and eerie howls that unnerved even the most seasoned backcountry guides. We all felt an unnerving sensation of being watched. Tourists oblivious to these disturbances continued their visits, marveling at Old Faithful and snapping photos of wildlife, unaware of the sinister undercurrent that seemed to pervade the park. About 3 weeks after I discovered the body, I had my first direct encounter with the entity haunting our park. It was late afternoon during a routine patrol of remote campsites. The golden hour bathed everything in a warm, rich glow. Just as I was heading back to my vehicle, a chilling sound stopped me. Initially, it seemed like the wind moaning through the trees, but it quickly morphed into something more deliberate, more menacing, emanating from a dense stand of pines. Rooted to the spot, my hand instinctively went to my sidearm. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, but as a ranger, this was my park, my duty. I edged toward the source of the sound. The moaning ceased, replaced by heavy, labored breathing and that sickly sweet stench I recognized from the body's discovery site. Approaching the tree-line, I caught a fleeting glimpse of a massive, dark shape through the branches, its movements unnaturally fluid for its size, and those eyes, glowing yellow, filled with an intelligence far removed from any animal. For a terrifying moment, our eyes locked, and a profound terror rooted me in place. This wasn't merely an animal. It was something else, something that didn't belong in our world. Then, it vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a rustling of branches and that awful lingering stench. I don't recall much about the drive back. I was in a daze, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Back at the station, I sat in the parking lot for a long time, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. Part of me wanted to report it, to share the burden of this knowledge, but another part, growing stronger each day, knew it would be futile. Whatever this thing was, it was beyond our usual protocols, beyond our understanding. As I walked into the station, catching my reflection in the window, I noticed how aged I looked, worn down by what I'd seen. And in my eyes, I saw a new expression, fear. Little did I know this was just the beginning. The true test of our courage, of the very fabric of our reality, was yet to come. As autumn deepened into winter, the atmosphere in Yellowstone grew increasingly tense. The tourist season dwindled, leaving the park mostly to those of us who lived here year-round. Unlike previous years, this winter's quiet was marred by a palpable sense of foreboding. More sightings were reported. Strange tracks appeared in the snow. Eerie howls echoed through the valleys, often answered by the wolves' own mournful cries. Always, there was that unsettling feeling of being watched. Upper management tried to downplay the incidents, attributing them to unusually active wildlife or natural phenomena under investigation. But we on the ground knew better. We had seen too much, heard too much to believe the official line. Jenna and I were often paired up now. An unspoken rule had emerged among the Rangers. No one ventured into the backcountry alone. Safety in numbers, though deep down, I think we all understood that if we faced whatever was out there, numbers wouldn't make much difference. It was during one of these patrols in late November that we finally confronted the creature. We were ensuring that the remote campsites were shut down for winter when a heavy mist rolled in, cloaking the forest in a ghostly white veil. Just as we were about to head back, Jenna froze, her voice tight with fear. "Ron, do you hear that?" Straining, I initially heard nothing but the soft drip of mist on leaves, but then a deep, unsettling rumble reached my ears, as if the forest itself was growling at us. We stood back to back, rifles at the ready, as the growling intensified, surrounding us. Then, out of the mist, it appeared, a nightmare made flesh, towering over us at 8 feet tall, its body shifting and changing, covered one moment in fur, the next almost skeletal. Its face, if it could be called that, was a grotesque parody of features, with those ungodly yellow eyes and a too-wide mouth filled with sharp, numerous teeth. Frozen in terror, we faced the creature as it regarded us with an alien intelligence. Jenna acted first, her rifle's report shattering the eerie silence. The creature staggered but did not fall. Instead, it roared, a sound that vibrated through the trees, scattering birds in panic. We opened fire, bullet after bullet tearing into the beast. Yet it advanced, its wounds seeming to heal as quickly as we inflicted them. Just as it reached us, more gunfire erupted. Other rangers, drawn by the noise, had come to our aid. Faced with this new threat, the creature gave a final, earth-shaking roar and retreated into the mist. Panting and in shock, we regrouped with the other rangers, their faces etched with disbelief. "What the hell was that?" one of the younger rangers asked, his voice echoing our own terror and confusion. In the days that followed, the park was locked down. The few remaining tourists were quietly evacuated, official statements citing environmental hazards. We rangers were sworn to secrecy, instructed to report any further sightings directly to a special task force brought in to handle the situation. Agent Hawkins, whom I had met previously, led the task force, setting up a command center in one of the old lodges. They brought equipment I'd never seen, machines that beeped and whirred, measuring unfathomable things. Jenna and I were debriefed separately, our accounts recorded and analyzed for any inconsistency, but our stories aligned perfectly. How could they not? The memory of that creature was seared into our minds, unforgettable, undeniable. As winter took hold, the hunt for the creature intensified. We were paired with members of Hawkins' team, combining our local knowledge with their advanced technology and military training. Yellowstone, always a place of wonder, now felt sinister, each shadow a potential hiding spot for the creature, every unexplained noise a possible threat. During one patrol in the Lamar Valley, I was paired with Rodriguez, a former Navy SEAL. We were tracking unusual heat signatures when we encountered the creature again. It was as terrifying as before, its form constantly shifting, defying natural laws. Rodriguez opened fire without hesitation, but the creature charged. In the ensuing chaos, I thought we were goners, but then, as if reality itself tore open, a blinding light enveloped the creature, and it vanished, leaving behind nothing but a void where it had stood. Rodriguez and I were airlifted out, in shock, the official story chalked up to a bear encounter. But we knew the truth. Something inexplicable had happened in the Lamar Valley, something that defied all logic. In the weeks that followed, more anomalies occurred. Portals began appearing throughout the park, spewing forth creatures or swallowing elements of the landscape. Hawkins' team, now including scientists, theologians, and even mystics, worked tirelessly to understand the phenomenon. The truth, when it emerged, was more bizarre than any of us could have imagined. Yellowstone wasn't just a national park, nor merely a supervolcano. It was a nexus, a weak point in the fabric of reality. The geothermal activity was merely a byproduct of the real forces at play, energies from other dimensions pressing against our own. The creatures were not of our world. They hailed from a realm so alien that their mere presence in our dimension caused them pain and drove them to aggression. But the question remained, why now? Why? After millennia of relative peace, was the veil between worlds thinning? The answers, when they came, would challenge our understanding of reality itself and our place within it. Ironically, the answer to the thinning barriers lay in our very efforts to protect the park. The changing climate, our careful management of wildlife populations, even our attempts to prevent wildfires, all of it had inadvertently disrupted a delicate balance. We were so focused on preserving the visible aspects of Yellowstone that we had weakened the barriers to the unseen Yellowstone. This revelation did not make our jobs any easier. In fact, it only compounded the difficulty. How do you combat something that, by its very nature, barely exists within your reality? Yet fight we did. Rangers and special forces, scientists and shamans, all united in a desperate effort to seal the rifts and repel the creatures back to their dimension. It all came to a head on a frigid, clear night in February. The largest rift yet open near Old Faithful, a gaping maw in reality that emitted an eerie, otherworldly glow.